Welcome, friends. Today, the first seminar of financial year 22-23, and we welcome all the members of Borivali's Central CP Study Circle. But before we start the session, let's rise for the Institute motto.
Yaesha supteshu jagrati Yaesha supteshu jagrati Kamam 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 kamurusho Purusho nirmimanaha Tadeva shukrada brahma Tada brahma Tadeva mritamuchyate Tasmin lokaha shataha Sarve taduna kaschanatyati kaschan Etadvaita 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 Etadvaita
Thank you, friends. Friends, 1st April, a new financial year starts, and lots of changes also come from 1st April for a chartered accountant. So the change is inevitable. So today I can proudly tell that myself, Nilesh Vasa, past and last convener. Last year I was a convener, but today I want to present new conveners of our Borivali Central CP Study Circle, CA Vishal Joshi and Deputy Convener CA Javarsha Vasa. With a loud drum of applause, I welcome both of them. I know that yesterday Rahul Tevatia 266, everyone must be remembered, but today we have convener and deputy convener who are also very good cricketers. So definitely the whole year it will be a success. So welcome Vishal Joshi and CA Javarsha Vasa to this new financial year 2023. And yes, I pass on the baton to my new convener Vishal Joshi, who will take the charge of this session. Yes, Vishal Joshi, all yours and the full year, and good wishes for the full year.
Thank you, Nilesh. Welcome all to the first meeting of financial year 22-23. I first like to welcome our first speaker of this year, Jignesh Bhai, who is a best friend of Javarsa. I also like to congratulate Nilesh and Pradeep for a successful completion of their term, and we will definitely try to achieve the precedent set by you both. Thank you BCSC for giving us the opportunity to serve the BCSC. Thank you Jawad to become my deputy convener. Thank you everyone. There are a few announcements. Today is the last day for the registration. Discounted registration date is the 9th. Today is the last day. I request members who are not yet registered, please take the benefit of this discount period and get yourself registered. Also, I would like to tell that this, as per the CP guidelines, the member of the BCSC only will get the CP of the today's meeting. Those members who are not still registered themselves, please request them to register so that we will able to give the CP. With this, I request Jawad to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Vishal, and thank you, Nilesh Bhai. It's a privilege to be the part of this BCSC. Now, in this year, I have been given the opportunity to serve as a deputy convener. So, thank you, Vishal, also for selecting me as a deputy convener and giving me the opportunity to serve the BCSC. Thank you very much.
I request Bijal to please give brief introduction of the today's speaker.
Thank you, Vishal Bhai. I think Jignesh Bhai doesn't require introduction when it comes to GST, being a regular speaker, be it WRIC or at CTC or at BCS. But for all the new members, I would like to introduce him. He's member of Institute of Chartered Accountants, and he's also Indirect Tax Committee approved faculty on GST, and delivered more than 175 talks on various issues in GST across India. He is member of Indirect Tax Committee of WRIC for year 1819, 1920, as well as 2021. He's also member of Indirect Tax Committee of Bombay Chartered Accountants Society for year 1920, 2021, as well as current year 21-22. He very recently authored a book titled GST Refund, Law, Procedure and Practice, which is a practical guide published by GST PM. He's a visiting faculty at NASI, a central government training institute for training of officers belonging to Central Cadet. He's also founder member of Confederation of GST Professional and Industries, mainly known as CGPI. And he's also member of Law and Representation Committee of GST PM for year 2021. With this brief introduction, I would like to welcome Jignesh Bhai to BCSC. We'd like to present you E-Momento, being a virtual meeting, and we also contributed ₹500 towards CABF fund of institute. Welcome, Jignesh Bhai. I request you to start the session, please.
Bijal, I wish you continue for a few more minutes. As you were speaking, number of attendees has gone up from 180 to 220.
Okay.
So one thing we would remind Jignesh Bhai, you were going to be the last speaker of financial year 21-22 at our RRC.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you were not able to be a last speaker of the year, but now the circle has completed. So you are the first speaker of this financial year. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Vasha bhai. At the outset, congratulations to new team. And I'm shocked. We talk about e-way bill, e-invoice. Borivali CP Circle talks about e-momento. So good development.
Thank you.
Yeah. So friends, before we start this topic, Jawad bhai, can you confirm you can see my screen?
Not yet.
It's not started.
Is it coming now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So friends, I think MCA was the first authority to start, what we call a migration from physical to e-format in India. MCA, I guess in 2005 has started MCA 21. And thereafter, we have seen a lot of changes in income tax, in GST. In e-way bill was the one more change. Now, since last 1.5 years, we have seen something called e-invoicing. So let us understand what is the procedural part in it, what will be advantages, what would be the likely challenges when we go into e-invoicing, and how our practice will be reshaped after this e-invoicing environment. So we may have questions like, what is e-invoice? Who will generate? Is there any benefit? And if there is any benefit, who is benefited most, government or taxpayer? Can I generate invoicing on voluntary basis? Is it compulsory? What if for some reason, maybe because of lack of resource, I could not generate e-way bill? Whether government is now going to generate invoice for me or I will have to generate. What are the process involved? What if there is any error? Can I amend e-invoice? So all sort of apprehensions we may have. I believe most of the attendees are chartered accountant, and generally we are not required to generate e-invoicing. Generally, accountant or somebody from management takes care of such trivial part. But of course, we are called upon to handle many queries. If there are any issue in invoicing, definitely we as a chartered accountant gets call from client. So my session will be mostly on a legal side rather than on a procedural side. Of course, I will touch base procedural side. With the advent of new technologies and software like ERP and Tele, e-invoicing is like a cakewalk. Like we print invoice on a printer, I think in same amount of time, you can generate e-invoice through Tele. The moment you have entered sales invoice and you have pressed Control A, if you have properly configured your Tele And if you are eligible for invoicing, Tally will pop up a message. Do you want to generate invoice, or do you want to send details to IRP? If you click yes, maybe in less than 30 seconds, e-invoice will be generated, and you will means it's in fraction of second. E-invoice will be in front of your screen. So that's easy it is. So before we go into procedural part, let's handle legal framework. Now, friends, if you ask me, is there a section for e-invoice? I will say no. Section 31 itself, which takes care of invoicing, will also be applicable to e-invoicing. Till now, there is no amendment in section 31. There are few question answers. Okay. Yeah, fine. So the mother rule for e-invoicing is rule number 48, sub rule 4. This rule is the heart of e-invoicing. By virtue of this rule, government has notified class of registered person who will have to prepare e-invoice. Originally, this limit was 100 crore, then raised upward to 500 crore, then subsequently reduced to 100 crore, then 50 crore, and from 1st April 2022, if aggregate turnover exceeds 20 crore, then such taxpayer will have to prepare invoice in e-form, that is called e-invoice, by uploading specified particulars as per schema given by government in form INV01. This schema is nothing but a template or a format. In this schema, there are 87 fields, friends, 87. Out of this 87, 29 fields are compulsory. Rest of the fields are optional. So you will have to submit all these details to a new portal called IRP. And once you submit all these details, you are required to obtain something called invoice reference number, IRN. This is the first part of e-invoicing. So if you ask me, what are the steps involved in invoicing? First step, you are supposed to upload specified particulars on IRP and obtain IRN. That is first step. And the concluding step, as per rule 46 sub rule R, as per this rule, tax invoice should also have something called QR code, also called quick response code. And this quick response code, IRN should be embedded. So second step, your e-invoice should have QR code with IRN. If you do this, your e-invoicing is over. इसके अलावा आपको कुछ नहीं करना है. Only two steps. Step 1, submit specified particulars on IRP and obtain IRN. First step. Second step, your invoice should have QR code with embedded IRN, and put that QR code on your invoice. Your work is done. ये इतना simple है. So you may ask a question, what is difference between physical invoice and e-invoice? ये physical invoice process जो था और जो e-invoicing है, इसमें difference क्या है, फर्क क्या है? Unless we understand difference between these two, we cannot appreciate new change. So let us understand physical में क्या होता था. In physical environment, supplier used to continue, or supplier used to generate invoice from their accounting system. It can be Tally, ERP, another ERP software, SAP, whatever. So supplier used to generate invoice and that invoice was forwarded to the recipient. That was in physical mode, old mode. Now in this new mode, supplier will continue to generate invoice through their software. But before it is getting forwarded to recipient, supplier will report details of invoice to a portal called Invoice Registration Portal, that is IRP in short. So up before sending details to recipient, we will have to report these details to IRP, a major change. IRP will validate all these details. If it is in proper format, proper shape, then IRP will generate something called Invoice Reference Number, IRN. That IRN will be sent back to supplier along with digital signing of invoice. ये जो digital signing of invoice है, ये खुद IRP करके देगा, आपको कुछ नहीं करना है. And IRP will also add QR code in the JSON file. All these things will be received by supplier, and thereafter supplier can issue invoice to the recipient. So step number 1 and 4 will remain same, but step number 2 and 3 are the new addition because of e-invoicing format or e-invoicing mode. So friends, सोचिए अभी आप. We understand from ages we have been told that sales is a contract between two contracting party called seller and buyer. अब before buyer get to know about invoice details, government will have all details. मेरा बायर समझे कि इनवॉइस रेज हुआ है उससे पहले गवर्नमेंट के पास सब कुछ डिटेल्स है. That is the major change which has been introduced by way of e-invoicing. So what is the process of e-invoicing? अगर हमें infographics में समझाना है, let's start from this stage. This is my first stage. Prepare regular invoice. Then we have to generate those invoice into JSON format, Java-based format. That details we have to upload on IRP. If details are found proper, IRP will give you IRN, QR code, and signed JSON files. Once you have this, you can issue invoice with QR code having IRN to the recipient. ये 5 steps है. Because of technology, you will not get to know that at the back end, step number 2, step number 3, and step number 4 is executed by your accounting system. आप खाली थोड़े बटन दबाओगे, अपने आप काम हो जाएगा. But all this conversion, uploading, obtaining IRN, everything will be done by your accounting system at the back end. आपको शायद इसका एहसास भी नहीं होगा. But all this will be done by system. ये जो steps हैं, unless you know this technology, आपको शायद समझ में भी नहीं आएंगे कि पीछे कुछ हो रहा है. You might be concerned with only this two. So अभी e-invoicing में क्या क्या होगा? Like old environment, there will be invoice. There will be IRN from IRP. And you will have to put QR code with IRN on the invoice. नॉर्मल इनवॉइस जैसा ही इनवॉइस रहेगा, बट उस इनवॉइस पे क्यूआर कोड रहेगा, एंड दैट इन दैट क्यूआर कोड IRN विल बी एम्बेडेड, अंदर ही रहेगा. सो IRN क्या है? व्हाट इज दिस IRN? फ्रेंड्स, IRN is a unique number. And why I'm saying it is unique? Because it is generated on the basis of these 4 variables. These 4 variables are supplier's GSTN number, financial year, document type, and invoice number, or maybe debit note number, or maybe credit note number. Now friends, you know GSTN unique है. Financial year cannot remain same, it will always change. Next year और कोई financial year आएगा. Document number और उससे पहले document type. So because of these 4 variables, your IRN will be unique. ये कभी भी same नहीं होगा. Typically IRN is a 64-digit alphanumeric code. टेक्नोलॉजी वाले लोग इसको हैश कोड बोलते हैं. Somebody may ask, कितना टाइम लगेगा IRN जनरेट करने में? And I'm saying it can be generated in sub 200 milliseconds duration. This is what NIC says, and I have also observed. ऐसा से नहीं होता कि IRN जनरेट हो गया. कई बार printing may take more time. IRN generation will happen in less than that time. It is that fast. अगर आपको IRN देखना है तो ये आपका QR कोड है. You must have seen this QR code. और ये जो नीचे है alphanumeric 64-digit code, that is nothing but IRN. But this we cannot see from our naked eyes. This is in machine readable language. ये हम समझ नहीं सकते. But if we open this code, then ये सब डिटेल्स इस कोड में है. सप्लायर GSTN, recipient GSTN, invoice number, date on which E-invoice has been generated, taxable value, tax, number of line items. Friends, कितनी लाइन है इनवॉइस में? HSN कोड, बट सबका HSN कोड नहीं, only of highest value. When IRN was generated and its IRN number. Friends, इनवॉइस के रिक्वायरमेंट्स रूल में दी गए हैं, बट QR कोड में सब डिटेल्स कैप्चर नहीं होती है. Only these details will be captured. बाकी सब डिटेल्स कैप्चर्ड नहीं होती बिकॉज इट इज अ QR कोड, क्विक रेफरेंस कोड है. गवर्नमेंट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ दिस डिटेल्स will capture a lot of information about taxpayer, about transaction. अब you may ask, ये पेटीएम का कोड चेक करते तो बैंक डिटेल्स होता है, इसमें है क्या? No friends. Intention of E-invoicing QR code is to capture details about invoicing. इसका इंटेंशन पेमेंट फैसिलिटेट नहीं करना है, पेमेंट फैसिलिटी के लिए और कुछ है. इसका इंटेंशन खाली आपका सेल्स का ट्रांजैक्शन कैप्चर करना है. सो विद दैट इंटेंशन ओनली फ्यू डिटेल्स आर कैप्चर्ड. बैंक, आपका बैंक डिटेल्स यहां नहीं आता है. मैनी पीपल में फील कि अभी तो मेरा गवर्नमेंट इनवॉइस जनरेट करेगा. नहीं, कुछ नहीं, आप ही जनरेट करोगे. यू विल जनरेट योर डिटेल्स एंड यू विल ट्रांसमिट टू IRP. दैट्स इट. गवर्नमेंट आपके लिए कुछ नहीं करने वाला. अब एक डिटेल में प्रोसेस फ्लो देख लेते हैं. दिस हैज बीन कॉपीड फ्रॉम NIC प्रेजेंटेशन. इसमें मैंने अपना कुछ भी ऐड नहीं किया है, बट विद दिस वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड कि ये कैसे एनवायरमेंट में काम करता है. सो हु आर द मेजर स्टेक होल्डर्स इन दिस E-invoicing environment? First one is your supplier. आपका सप्लायर सबसे पहले, फिर IRP पोर्टल, योर GST पोर्टल इंक्लूडिंग ई-वे बिल पोर्टल, and of course recipient or buyer. These are the four stakeholders of the e-invoicing environment. Let us understand what are the roles and obligations of these four stakeholders in e-invoicing format. So as we know now, if seller want to participate in e-invoicing environment, he needs to have some utility whereby he can convert his normal invoice into JSON format and thereafter upload such details on the IRP. उसके पास कुछ utility होनी चाहिए. Quite possible that utility is embedded in his accounting software, or if he doesn't have that such sort of accounting software, he can use government utility, but some utility he needs to have. So he will have to generate normal invoice, convert this into JSON format, and thereafter upload on IRP. That's the first stage. Now IRP, once IRP gets all this data, they will validate this data. बराबर स्ट्रक्चर में है, as per schema में है या नहीं है. If it is as per schema, if it is unique, friends, IRP carries out something called deduplication process. IRP will always ensure that IRN is unique. If there is any sort of duplication, आपका e-invoice validate नहीं होगा. So IRP will first validate your data. If details are okay, IRP will generate IRN. The moment IRN is generated, all these details are transferred to GST portal. That is the whole intention of e-invoicing. जैसे ही IRN generate हुआ, those details will be forwarded to GST portal and also to e-वे बिल portal if applicable. In case of service, it cannot transmit. But in case of goods, such details will be transmitted even to e-वे बिल portal. Thereafter, IRP will generate QR code. That QR code will be added to the invoice file. That file will be digitally signed by IRP. Once signed, all these details will be forwarded to supplier. Once supplier receives all these details, supplier can straight away issue invoice to buyer. GST पोर्टल क्या करेगा इस पूरे प्रोसेस में? I will say GST पोर्टल तो सूत्रधार है. All these details will be saved only at GST पोर्टल. ये जो भी इनवॉइसिंग का डिटेल्स है, it will be stored at GST portal. All these details will be auto-populated in the GSTR1 of supplier and GSTR2A of the recipient by the portal. वो अपने आप ही आएगा. अगर आपके किसी सप्लायर ने ये इनवॉइस जनरेट किया है, by looking at GSTR2A, you can say कि ये इनवॉइस है. Just by looking at GSTR2A, because GSTR2A डाउनलोड करोगे तो आपको उसमें IRN कोड दिखेगा. बायर का क्या रोल है इस प्रोसेस के अंदर? As such nothing. Buyer is supposed to verify authenticity of e-invoice. ये e-invoice बराबर है या ऐसे ही कोई कोड चिपका के आपको दे दिया गया है. A very onerous responsibility on buyer, but of course it is casted on buyer to verify authenticity of invoice. कैसे चेक करते हैं? We will see subsequently. So ये पूरा प्रोसेस है. Now, having understood some technicalities, let us first understand who all are in the net of e-invoicing. So taxpayer, or I will say registered person, having aggregate turnover in excess of 20 crore, in excess है 20 करोड़ तक नहीं, 20 करोड़ के ऊपर. If aggregate turnover exceeds 20 crore, then from 1st April 2022, that registered person will be in the e-invoicing net. So question may arise, what is aggregate turnover? Friend, this question we have addressed many times in past and answer remains same. Aggregate turnover का मतलब क्या? All taxable supply you will have to add, all exempt supply you will have to add, all your export supply you will have to add, and you will have to also consider your interstate supply. Of course, that is part of taxable supply. So सब कुछ आपको ऐड करना है, तो क्या एक्सक्लूड करना है? Only two items. First of all, taxation. Whatever GST you are charging, that will not form part of aggregate turnover. Second thing, inward supply. Again, I am repeating, inward supply on which you are paying tax under RCM, that you will have to exclude. Your outward supply on which your recipient will pay tax under RCM, that you will have to include. Only your inward supply आपके aggregate turnover में नहीं आएंगे और आपका टैक्स नहीं आएगा. Other than this, aggregate turnover में सब कुछ आएगा. You may ask another question. Aggregate turnover we know, but which period aggregate turnover? मुझे कौन से साल का टर्नओवर देखना है? खाली प्रीसीडिंग ईयर का या any 5 years? And if it is any 5 years, will it be from 1st April 2017 to 31st March 18, or it is only from 1st July 2017 to 31st March 18? Answer is very simple. If aggregate turnover of any 5 years exceeds 20 crore, कोई भी साल में अगर आपका टर्नओवर एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर 20 करोड़ से ऊपर हो गया, योर क्लाइंट विल बी इन ई-इनवॉइसिंग नेट फॉर लाइफ टाइम. आपको हर साल चेक नहीं करना, एक बार आ गया तो आ गया, नो एग्जिट. फर्स्ट ईयर विल बी रेकन्ड ओनली फ्रॉम 1st जुलाई 2017. जीएसटी का टर्नओवर ही ऐड करना है, वैट या सर्विसेज का टर्नओवर आपको ऐड नहीं करना है. One more question. What if your client's turnover increase this 20 crore threshold, say on 1st July 2022? In the currency of financial year, जब financial year चालू है और आपके क्लाइंट का टर्नओवर बढ़ गया है, उससे पहले कभी भी इंक्रीज नहीं हुआ था, तो whether for that year your client is supposed to generate e-invoice? Answer is no. Even though for financial year 22-23, turnover has increased or it has crossed threshold, still for this year, client will not be required to generate e-invoice. He will be under physical mode. From next year onwards, that is from 1st April 2023, your client will be under e-invoicing. Now, friends, we have seen who is in. These all guys are under e-invoice net. But there are type of taxpayer who are outside e-invoicing net, irrespective of turnover. Turnover 500 crore हो जावे, 5000 crore हो जावे, but all these entities are outside e-invoicing net. And who are this entity? SEZ unit, including FTWZ. ये दोनों को कोई भी टर्नओवर हो, ई इनवॉइसिंग एप्लीकेबल नहीं है. बट सरप्राइजिंगली एसएसजेड डेवलपर जो जनरली सेम फुटिंग पे एसएसजेड का, जैसे फुटिंग पे जनरली है पूरे जीएसटी लॉ में, ई इनवॉइसिंग में उसको वो बेनिफिट नहीं दिया गया है. SEZ unit is outside e-invoicing ambit, but SEZ developer is within the e-invoicing ambit provided threshold is breached. 20 करोड़ का टर्नओवर हो गया तो SEZ डेवलपर कवर हो जाएगा, लेकिन SEZ यूनिट कभी भी कवर नहीं होगा. इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज एंड बैंकिंग कंपनीज एनीवे इनको बहुत कंसेशन इनवॉइसिंग में है ही है, so they are not covered under e-invoicing. As expected, government department and local authorities are outside e-invoicing net. NBFC are at same pedestal like banking, they are also outside e-invoicing. Your goods transport agent, जनरली हम जिसको ट्रांसपोर्टर समझते हैं लूज फॉर्म में, they are also outside e-invoicing. Entity engage in passenger transportation, you can take example of Nita bus or Red bus. So Nita transport या Red bus, they are outside e-invoicing. Multiplexes are outside e-invoicing. सिंगल प्लेक्स के लिए कुछ भी नहीं है, सिंगल स्क्रीन टॉकीज के लिए कुछ भी नहीं है. Maybe they may not cross turnover, that might be the logic, but सिंगल स्क्रीन के लिए कोई exemption नहीं है. ISD unit. So currently it is quite possible that your client may have few units who are non-SEZ and few units which are SEZ. Same GSTN पे certain units might be non-SEZ, normal units, DTA units, and certain units might be SEZ units. So वो SEZ unit इनवॉइसिंग में नहीं आएगा, लेकिन बाकी सब यूनिट अगर टर्नओवर क्रॉस हुआ तो इनवॉइसिंग में आ जाएंगे. Quite possible your client might have taken ISD registration. So that ISD registration is outside e-invoicing. Normal registrations will be within the ambit of e-invoicing अगर threshold cover होता है on pan India basis. Turnover हर एक GSTN का नहीं देखना है, you will have to see on a pan India basis. And why I am emphasizing this, I will cover this in FAQs. Now assuming that your client is under e-invoicing, a question may arise whether all supplies will be under e-invoicing. क्या यहाँ भी कोई छूटछाट मिली हुई है? So let us first understand what are the type of supplies or documents which are covered under invoicing. So all your B2B tax invoice, again I am saying B2B tax invoice, debit note related to tax invoice, credit note related to tax invoice, which are issued by supplier, will be under e-invoicing. Friends, we know in accounts, अगर सामने वाला डेबिट नोट रेस किया तो मैं क्रेडिट नोट इश्यू करता हूं. That is accounting adjustment. Only those documents which are issued by supplier will be under e-invoicing. Supplier ने जो डॉक्यूमेंट इश्यू किया वही e-invoicing में आएगा. अगर बायर ने कोई डॉक्यूमेंट इश्यू किया, that will never be under e-invoicing. All your export invoices, all your zero date invoices will be under e-invoicing. So if I am raising any invoice on SEZ unit, that is nothing but zero date invoice, and that will be covered under e-invoicing. But SEZ को invoice issue करेगा तो वो invoicing में नहीं आएगा. Even your deemed exports are covered, like B2B, business to business. If there is any supply to government, B2G, that is also covered. Your cross charge, deemed supply between two GSTN having same pen, that is called distinct person, उसके लिए भी e-invoicing applicable है. Cross charge, deemed supply, which happens between two GSTN but under same pen, उसके लिए भी आपको e-invoicing करना पड़ेगा. If your client is supplying goods through e-commerce operator, maybe Flipkart, maybe Amazon, even for such invoices, if your client is covered under invoicing, again I'm saying if your client is covered under invoicing, then उसका invoice e-invoice ही बनेगा. या तो आपका client e-invoice इश्यू कर सकता है या फ्लिपकार्ट या अमेजोन इश्यू करेंगे, but all such invoices will be under e-invoicing only. I will handle last first and then we will go into second last one. Friends, exempt supply e-invoicing में नहीं है. Intention of e-invoicing is to get more details about taxable supply. But if it is exempted export supply, even such exempted export supply will be covered under e-invoicing. Now let me touch base this point, second last pair. Assume a case of a say legal firm, a fairly large size legal firm, turnover in excess of 20 crores. Now you know legal services is under a reverse charge, and generally recipient business unit pays tax on reverse charge basis. Now this legal firm has also some other income, say rent income, which is under forward charge, and that's why this legal firm is registered under GST. Of course, on renting, which is under forward charge, advocate firm will issue e-invoice. However, even in respect of legal services, which is outward supply for legal firm, but on which tax will be paid by recipient, such firm will have to generate e-invoice. And logic is very simple. Only supplier can issue invoice. Recipient can never issue invoice. Legal firm being supplier of legal service, a lawyer firm will have to generate e-invoice. Having understood which documents are covered, let us understand which type of documents are outside e-invoicing ambit. All your B2C supply are outside e-invoicing as of now. There are certain other requirements of B2C supply, that is called dynamic QR code, which you will handle separately. But dynamic QR code is different from e-invoicing. So for B2C supply, e-invoicing is not applicable. Javad bhai, some participants are raising hand. You want me to answer their queries right now, or you want me to postpone and handle at the end?
At the end, we will take the question answer.
Thank you. So friends, I will take your query at the end only. I will have to follow the protocol. All your exempt supply, all your related supplies, जिसपे GST लगता नहीं है, that is outside ambit of e-invoicing. All your other documents which just denotes movement, like delivery challan, job work challan, they're outside GST. Advance receipt voucher. In case of services, if you have received any advance, you are supposed to issue advance receipt voucher and pay tax on that. However, that such advance receipt voucher is outside the ambit of e-invoicing. In case of import, you file something called bill of entry of home consumption and you pay IGST on that. However, such bill of entry is also outside the ambit of e-invoicing. As we have seen earlier, ISD invoice is outside the ambit of e-invoicing, but cross-charge invoice is within the ambit of e-invoicing. All your Schedule 3 supplies like high seas, bonded warehouse sales, drop shipment, out and out sale, all these are neither supply of goods nor supply of service, and therefore they are outside the ambit of e-invoicing. Friends, as per rule 9.3 and even 9.4, that is not rule, section, sorry, as per section 9.3 and 9.4, we are required to pay GST on reverse charge basis in respect of specified inward supplies, जिसको हम बोलते हैं self invoice. If I'm availing any service from advocate, I will have to pay RCM on reverse charge basis. However, in respect of such self invoice, I am not supposed to generate E-invoice. Supplier will generate E-invoice. You may ask a question, what about financial debit note, credit notes? Now friends, financial debit credit notes are outside the ambit of section 34. जिसपे GST नहीं है, उस पे E-invoicing के rules apply नहीं होते हैं, thumb rule है. Financial debit credit note has got no GST impact, and that's why you can continue to issue them in physical form. There is a concept called invoice cum bill of supply. So if your client is dealing in taxable as well as exempt supply, he can issue invoice cum bill of supply as per rules, और इस invoice में taxable भी item रहेगी, exempt भी रहेगी. Possible है. Whether such things are possible in invoicing environment, answer is no. जिसपे GST नहीं है, वो उसके लिए आपको E-invoice issue नहीं करना है. You can issue physical invoice. Take a case of hospital. Now, you know, hospitals generally provide healthcare service which is outside ambit of GST. वो exempt है. मैं ambit तो नहीं बोल सकता, but yes, that is exempt, specifically exempted. And they may also provide some taxable services like, say, cosmetic surgery या facial surgery. Now, this cosmetic surgery is subject to GST. A question may arise whether such hospital should generate E-invoice, and my answer would be, for exempt supply of healthcare service, E-invoicing is not required. They can issue physical invoice. However, for cosmetic surgery, E-invoicing may be applicable. अब पूछोगे इनवॉइसिंग कैसे जनरेट करना, IRP आपने बताया. व्हाट इज IRP? ये कहां से कहां है? फ्रेंड्स, if you go through notification number 69 of 2019, government has notified 10 websites. आप देखेंगे तो ये वेबसाइट्स सब सिमिलर दिखती है, खाली एक डिजिट चेंज हो रहा है. For all practical purpose, you have to type this in browser. आपको यही टाइप करना है. If there is load on this website, automatically you will be diverted to another website. ये आपको चूज नहीं करना है. It is called farming of websites, और ये आपको अपने आप यहां से दूसरी वेबसाइट पे लेके जाएंगे. This portal is nothing but IRP. इनवॉइस रजिस्ट्रेशन पोर्टल यही है. जैसे अपना gst.gov.in है, वैसे ये e-invoice.gst.gov.in. Since IRP is one of the pillar of e-invoicing environment, हमने थोड़ा टच बेस किया था, इसको थोड़ा और डिटेल में देखते हैं. What role IRP performs in e-invoicing environment? First rule, validation of details received by supplier, received from supplier. जो supplier ने data push किया है on portal, उसको check करता है. अगर unique रहा data, then IRP will generate IRN and QR code with embedded IRN. Thereafter, जो JSON फाइल सप्लायर ने अपलोड किया था, that file will be digitally signed by IRP, and all these files will be sent back to the supplier after signature, after generation of QR code. इतना होने के साथ साथ IRP will push all these details to your GST portal and also to UL portal if applicable. Friends, IRP is like an intermediary. It's like a pass through. ये जो details IRP पे है, it is stored only for the period of 24 to 48 hours. इसके बाद यहाँ कुछ नहीं मिलता है. 48 hours के बाद तो कुछ भी नहीं मिलता है. You can't search your IRN after 48 hours. इसका पूरा intention is to act as a pass through. सब जो बैकएंड है वो GST पोर्टल पे ही है. And that's why it is very important कि आप अपना IRN डिटेल्स जो भी है वो संभाल के रखिए. After 48 hours, IRP cannot help you. अब वापस लीगल साइड पे आते हैं. I am answering a question or I am raising a question. What if for some reason my supplier who was covered under e-invoicing ambit has failed to generate e-invoice? कोई कारण से रह गया तो क्या होगा? So if you see rule 48.5, one of the draconian rule, this rule says every invoice issued by a person to whom e-invoicing is applicable in any manner other than manner specified shall not be treated as an invoice. यानी जिसको इनवॉइसिंग एप्लीकेबल था बट उसने इनवॉइस फिजिकल मोड में इश्यू कर दिया, देन सच फिजिकल इनवॉइस shall not be treated as an invoice. Now let's read section 16.2. Section 16.2 lays down condition for availing ITC. And the very first condition says that recipient or claimant should be in possession of tax invoice or debit note. Now this rule 48.5 says that that physical invoice is a piece of paper, not a valid invoice. And 16.2a says that unless recipient is in possession of tax invoice or debit note, recipient cannot claim credit. So view emerge that such physical invoice is not eligible for credit. That's a view. And obviously department will take this view forward and notices may be issued in future. However, friends, in last 5 years of GST, I have observed one unique thing. हर एक चीज रूल में आता है, एक्ट में कुछ है ही नहीं. All restrictions, all prohibitions are inserted by way of rule. And when taxpayer shouts, later on, act is amended. To my understanding, by putting such rules, right of ITC cannot be denied. More so because section 31, which deals with invoicing, including e-invoicing, is totally silent. 31 में ऐसा कोई restriction नहीं है. 31 is silent. Just by putting something in rule, obviously department will try to issue so-cause notices, but to my understanding, 48.5 is ultra vires section 31. But it is a gray area, only time will tell. So it is advisable that we take proper precaution. And friends, 20 crore का threshold बहुत छोटा है. 500 crore, 100 crore was a big threshold. It is impossible for accountant to go to portal and check कि भाई हर एक supplier e-invoicing में covered है कि नहीं है. and that you have to do on a yearly basis. Jahan you have a doubt, you will have to ask your accountant to go to portal and check whether supplier is covered under invoicing or not. If covered under invoicing, ensure supplier is issuing invoice. Otherwise, just to ensure that we are not covered under Rule 48.5, or just to prove that we were diligent in our efforts, it is advisable to take a declaration from all suppliers who are issuing physical invoice, confirming that they are not covered within the ambit of e-invoicing. कंपल्सरी नहीं है, एडवाइजेबल है. Now friends, let us come to registration part of e-invoicing. We have seen that in many cases our view was client is covered under e-invoicing, but IRP पे वो enable हुआ नहीं था. And reason being, this 20 crore limit is worked out by portal on the basis of turnover declared in GSTR 3B. GSTR 3B, GSTR 1 consider नहीं करते, खाली 3B. Now many taxpayers, they have not disclosed their exempt supply properly in GSTR 3B. तो पोर्टल ने जो 3B का वैल्यू था उसको कंसिडर करके इनेबल या डिसेबल करके रखा हुआ है. सो इफ योर क्लाइंट इज अदरवाइज एलिजिबल फॉर इनवॉइसिंग बट एज सच उसको माइग्रेट नहीं किया गया है, तो योर क्लाइंट कैन go to this website, follow this path and register or enable themselves for invoicing. Some of your tech savvy client, they may say कि सर मेरे को इसमें रजिस्टर कर दो ना, मेरा टर्नओवर 20 करोड़ नहीं हुआ है, कैन आई वॉलंटरी इश्यू इनवॉइस? आंसर इज नो. Only on crossing of threshold of 20 crore, taxpayer will be eligible for e-invoicing, not otherwise. We have handled one practical case where client was government department, but turnover 20 crore से ऊपर था. पोर्टल ने उसको मार्क कर दिया एलिजिबल फॉर इनवॉइसिंग, मेल भी आ गया. What choice we have now? Should I register? Should I generate e-invoice just because portal is saying, or I should claim exemption as a government department? Answer: I will have to claim an exemption. I will have to raise grievance on GST portal with all the documents, and if our claim is found valid, they will disable the GST invoicing in my GSTN. So ये आपको ये मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी. Now suppose your client is otherwise eligible for invoicing, तो क्या आपको ये IRP पोर्टल पर रजिस्ट्रेशन करना पड़ेगा? आंसर: अगर आपका इनवॉइसिंग, अगर आपका ईवेबल एक्टिव है, तो वही क्रेडेंशियल से यू कैन लॉग इन इवन ऑन योर IRP पोर्टल. इफ यू विश यू कैन, अगर आपको अलग से करना है आप कर सकते हो, बट अदरवाइज विथ योर ई-वे बिल क्रेडेंशियल आप ई-इनवॉइस भी इश्यू कर सकते हो. ये बहुत बेसिक क्वेश्चन है, हमेशा ही आएगा, बहुत सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स के माइंड में रहेगा ही. कैन आई इश्यू बैकडेटेड ई-इनवॉइस? वैलिड पॉइंट, पॉसिबल है. आई माइट हैव मिस्ड आउट issuing e-invoice. Can I do it now? Friends, IRP पोर्टल पे कोई भी वैलिडेशन नहीं है. मैटर इज विथ लॉ कमिटी. लॉ कमिटी भी चुपचाप बैठा है फॉर ऑलमोस्ट 1.5 years नाउ. सो टेक्निकली यू कैन जनरेट ई-इनवॉइस of past date जनरेशन डेट आज का आएगा, लेकिन इनवॉइस का डेट मार्च फरवरी जो भी आपको रखना रख सकते हो। इज इट प्रॉपर? आई विल से थ्योरेटिकली प्रॉपर है इफ यू गो बाय लॉजिक ऑफ सेक्शन 31. Section 31 deals with invoicing. Section 31 says, in case of goods, invoice should be issued before removal of such goods. In case of services, we are required to generate invoice within 30 days and for 45 days for banking, etc. of rendering of service. अगर आपने सर्विस रेंडर की तो आपको 30 या 45 डेज में, in case of goods, before removal of goods, we are supposed to generate invoice. And same criteria should also apply to invoice. So technically, भले आप generate कर पाओगे आज के दिन में भी, आपको IRN मिल जाएगा, but you have violated section 31. Intelligent officer can raise penalty under section 122(1) subclause 1. This provision reads, when a taxable person supplies any goods or service or both without issue of any invoice, because आपने जो invoice issue किया है वो as per rule 48(5) invoice ही नहीं है, or issues any incorrect or false invoice with regard to any such supply, shall be liable to be a penalty of 10,000 rupees or amount equivalent to the tax evaded, whichever is higher. यानी 10,000 रुपया या टैक्स इवेजन अमाउंट whichever is higher का पेनल्टी आपको लगा सकता है. ऑफिसर, if aggressive, he may levy this penalty for each violation. पॉसिबल है उसके लिए. और सपोज आपका गुड्स डिटेन हो गया, रास्ते में इंस्पेक्ट हुआ, you were supposed to issue invoice, but you have raised physical invoice. Nothing stops intercepting officer from applying section 129 or 130 in your case. Goods may be detained or confiscated depending upon facts of the case. So friends, if you are liable to generate invoice, you have to generate invoice. Otherwise, penal consequences may follow. Penal consequences may be on you. It may be even on a recipient by virtue of rule 48(5). What a common question. Invoice तो बना दिया, लेकिन कुछ गलती से मिस्टेक हो गया. Can I amend invoice? Can I delete those invoice? क्या उस इनवॉइस को मैं फाड़ सकता हूं? आंसर, कुछ नहीं कर सकते. खाली लिमिटेड ऑप्शन आपके पास है. You can cancel such invoice within 24 hours. On minute to minute basis 24 hours वर्कआउट होते हैं. अगर मैंने अभी इनवॉइस जनरेट किया तो अभी से लेकर 24 आवर्स, मिडनाइट का कंसेप्ट भी नहीं है. प्रोवाइडेड आपका ईवे बिल एक्टिव नहीं होना चाहिए. अगर उस इनवॉइस पे आपने ईवे बिल भी जनरेट किया है तो पहले आपको ईवे बिल कैंसिल करना पड़ेगा, उसके बाद आपको इनवॉइस कैंसिल करने को मिलेगा. व्हाट हैपेंस इफ 24 आवर्स has gone? Whether recipient can reject e-invoice? Answer is no. ये रिजेक्शन ईवे बिल में है. ई-इनवॉइस में रिसिपिएंट के पास कोई भी रोल नहीं है एक्सेप्ट चेकिंग ऑथेंटिसिटी. इसके सिवा कुछ नहीं कर सकता है. आफ्टर 24 आवर्स डेटा माइग्रेट हो चुका है, आईआरबी के पास कुछ है ही नहीं, कैंसलेशन इज नॉट पॉसिबल. विल सी. कैंसलेशन नहीं हो तो क्या करना बाद में देखते हैं. नाउ यू हैव कैंसल्ड दोज इनवॉइस विद इन 24 आवर्स. कैन यू जनरेट ई-इनवॉइस विद सेम नंबर? आंसर इज नो. भले आपका इनवॉइस कैंसिल हो गया है, लेकिन आईआरएन यूनिक है और आईआरएन का एक वेरिएबल आपका इनवॉइस नंबर भी है. सो वंस आपने वो इनवॉइस कैंसिल कर दिया, उसके बाद यू कैन नॉट जनरेट ई इनवॉइस विद सेम नंबर, आपको नया नंबर ही लेना पड़ेगा. When you go for cancellation of e-invoice, portal ask reason for cancellation. To my understanding, few reason could be order cancellation after generation of e-invoice, some error in generation of e-invoice, some wrong entries, or maybe duplicate entries. All this cancellation का log record maintain होता है और वो ऑफिसर के पास जाता है. Quite possible in future you may get notice asking client to reconcile all this cancellation. ये बाद में हो भी सकता है. So बहुत cancellation advisable नहीं है. You cannot partially cancel invoice. 10 line item थी, 5 cancel कर सकता हूँ? No, not possible. You will have to cancel in toto. Now you may ask a question कि cancellation नहीं हुआ, 24 hours जा चुके हैं. Now what recourse supplier will have? बहुत डिफिकल्ट है और इसमें बहुत इश्यूज आने वाले हैं. We may see many ASMT 10 in future on the basis of all these corrections and amendments. So NIC FAQ says that if it is not cancelled, supplier has got two choices. If it is possible, if it is legally possible to issue debit credit note as per section 34, then supplier should issue debit credit note again with IRN and QR code. Means e-invoicing में जाके आपको debit credit note issue करना पड़ेगा to nullify effect of such transaction. If it is not possible to generate debit credit note, then taxpayer can delete such entry and add a new entry in GSTR1. So NIC FAQ says that taxpayer disclose their liability in GSTR1. GSTR is a final statement disclosing outward supply and liability thereon. If some transaction for which e-invoice has been issued, but such transaction never materialize, and if it is not possible to issue debit credit note, अब जब सामने वाले ने इनवॉइस ही नहीं लिया तो डेबिट क्रेडिट नोट थोड़ी लेने वाला है, वो तो लेगा ही नहीं. He will say sorry, I will not accept any of debit credit note because मैंने आपका कभी इनवॉइस एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया है. In such situation, taxpayer shall delete such details while filing GSTR1. आपको GSTR1 फाइल करने के टाइम पे ये ट्रांजैक्शन डिलीट करना होगा. ऑफ कोर्स you are supposed to maintain records to prove this deletion. आगे जाके क्वेरी आ सकती है. If you cancel your invoice within 24 hours, still such invoice will appear in your GSTR1, but status cancelled रहेगा. यानी हर एक चीज का लॉग रिकॉर्ड है. दो पोर्टल सेज दैट ये सब लाइव होता है, लाइव नहीं होता है, T+3 डेज पे ही चल रहा है. यानी मैंने अगर आज इनवॉइस जनरेट किया, इट मे अपीयर इन माय R1 इन नेक्स्ट 2 to 3 days. तुरंत लाइव नहीं है, बट 3 days इज फेयरली ओके. So what we have handled till now is cancellation and its limited amendment in GSTR1 or by way of raising debit credit note, और कोई ऑप्शन आपके पास नहीं है. Now let us handle one more issue, how to send e-invoice to recipient. Physical invoice तो हम email से भेज देते थे, PDF copy या courier करते थे. Now how should we send e-invoice to recipient? Friends, IRP या GST portal, though they have all details about invoice, they will not send any details to recipient. उनको इससे कोई मतलब नहीं है. उनका इंटेंशन कैप्चर करना था, करके रख लिया. As per terms, supplier will have to send invoice to recipient, otherwise पैसा नहीं मिलेगा. So what are the options available? 3-4 ऑप्शन है, थ्योरेटिकल है, ऑप्शन 4 ही ओनली ऑप्शन मुझे लगता है, बट विल डिस्कस all these options. Whatever signed JSON file supplier has received from IRP, that JSON file can be sent through email to the recipient. ये एक ऑप्शन है. That JSON file can be converted into PDF, and that PDF can be sent as an email attachment to recipient with or without digital signature. That PDF can be printed and it can be sent to recipient in physical form. ये 3 ऑप्शन. मोस्ट प्रिवेलेंट ऑप्शन यही है, ऑप्शन नंबर 4. Taxpayer will do some little customization, और जो अपना इनवॉइस है, जिस फॉर्मेट में वो इनवॉइस इश्यू करता है इन टैली और एसबी व्हाटएवर, with his logo, with his banking details, with his terms and conditions, उसी इनवॉइस पे खाली QR कोड विथ IRN जो है उसको प्रिंट कर देगा, एंड दैट इनवॉइस मे बी इन फिजिकल फॉर्म और इन डिजिटल फॉर्म will send to recipient. 1, 2, 3 पॉसिबिलिटी है, लेकिन आई हैव नॉट सीन यहां कुछ ज्यादा, आई हैव नॉट सीन मेनी इनवॉइसेस. आई थिंक ओनली जो ऑप्शन 4 है वही फॉलो किया जा रहा है, अपना ही इनवॉइस विथ व्हाटएवर फॉर्मेट वी हैव. ओनली थिंग, जो QR कोड विथ IRN है उसको उसमें एम्बेड कर दो और भेज दो. इफ यू आर यूजिंग ऑप्शन 1, 2, 3, it is your choice whether you want to sign invoice digitally with the DSC या you want to sign physically, जैसे भी आपको करना है. बट जनरली डिजायरेबल है कि आपको उसको साइन करना चाहिए, बिकॉज अदरवाइज ऑडिट आपको शायद पेमेंट आने में तकलीफ होगी. बट लॉ इज साइलेंट ऑन दिस. नाउ सम इनोवेटिव गाय में आस्क अ क्वेश्चन कि मैं अपना नॉर्मल इनवॉइस अटैच करता हूं और साथ में QR कोड वाला जो है QR कोड है वो अलग पेपर पे प्रिंट करके साथ में स्टेपल कर देता हूं. इज इट अलाउड? आंसर इज नो, दैट इज नॉट अलाउड. आपको ई इनवॉइस पे ही QR कोड देना है, अटैचमेंट में नहीं. आपके ई इनवॉइस पे क्या IRN नंबर, एक्नॉलेजमेंट नंबर, IRN एक्नॉलेजमेंट नंबर, डेट एक्सेट्रा कंपलसरी है? ये सब डिटेल्स भी IRP आपको देता है, बट दिस नीड नॉट बी प्रिंटेड ऑन ई इनवॉइसिंग. यू विल स्टोर इट डेफिनेटली, बट आपको इसको ई इनवॉइस पे प्रिंट नहीं करना है. Now you may ask a question. There are many questions. I will handle them subsequently. But a question may arise in e-invoicing environment whether e-waybill is required. Answer: yes. Even today, even though e-invoicing is applicable, e-waybill will be required. But because of integration of both these two systems, you can generate e-invoice and e-waybill simultaneously. आप टैली से ही दोनों साथ में बना सकते हो, provided you are punching proper details. So if you are providing invoice details plus transporter ID and distance and vehicle details while generating e-invoice, आपका e-invoice, e-waybill part A and part B तीनों यानी दोनों ही चीज साथ में हो सकती है. If you are giving all these two details, all these three details simultaneously, आपका e-invoice और e-waybill साथ में बन जाएगा. आपको और कोई एफर्ट्स नहीं डालना है. बट फॉर सम रीजन यू डोंट हैव व्हीकल डिटेल्स राइट नाउ. ट्रांसपोर्टर कौन से व्हीकल में गुड्स मूव करने वाला आपके पास नहीं है. इन दैट सिचुएशन ऑब्वियसली e-waybill पार्ट भी नहीं बनेगा, बट e-invoice and e-waybill part A can generate simultaneously. साथ में दोनों चीजें पॉसिबल है. If you don't have transporter ID, distance details and vehicle details, obviously आपका खाली e-invoice ही बनेगा, and basis this invoice subsequently also you can generate e-waybill. But fact of the matter, e-invoicing does not mean e-waybill चला गया. दोनों ही है, दोनों साथ में हो सकते हैं. We have touch base this information, and again we will reinforce our understanding for the sake of legal requirement as well as practical consideration. We have seen that IRP will send back IRN number, IRN date, IRN acknowledgement number, and date thereof to the recipient. Supplier को ये सब देगा, supplier को ये सब देगा. Whether all such information should be stored in accounting software? Answer is yes. ये सब आपका टैली, आपका SAP, आपका जो भी सॉफ्टवेयर है, ये डिटेल्स स्टोर कर रहा है बैकएंड में. Because in future, department may ask all this information. Department may ask reconciliation between e-invoice and transaction disclosed in GSTR1 or e-invoice and transaction disclosed at EBB portal. आपको ये सब मांग सकता है, तो आपको ये सब डिटेल्स स्टोर करने एडवाइजेबल है. मोस्ट ऑफ अकाउंटिंग सॉफ्टवेयर स्टोर करते भी है. Even otherwise, registered person is required to store all such details for a period of 72 months from the due date of filing annual return. बहुत लंबा पीरियड है. So all these details should be properly stored. Friends, most of things I have covered. अब थोड़ा FAQ कवर कर लेते हैं. This FAQ may answer some of your questions. If it is not answered, we will see what are your questions subsequently. ये FAQ पब्लिश हुए थे इनिशियल पीरियड में जब 500 करोड़ का टर्नओवर लिमिट था. I have tried to copy such certain important FAQs because I believe this will be very much relevant even today. So I'm referring to question number 52 of FAQ. Now friends, as I have said, there are 87 fields या placeholders. ये invoicing में 87 fields दी हुई है. You are supposed to disclose details at appropriate placeholder. You need not worry about all these things because आपका Tally या ERP software अगर configure हुआ है तो that will take care of everything. But if you are using government utility, तब ये ज़्यादा relevant हो जाता है. Now friends, freight, insurance, packing, forwarding, etc., which is charged in invoice, is also subject to tax. This is part of valuation. इस पे भी एक GST लगता है. Question was asked that all such extra charges, which is part of composite supply only to my understanding, पर अलग से disclose किया जाता है. How to disclose them in e-invoice? Can we show them under other charges? Other charges का एक place दिया हुआ है. Can we disclose them under such other charges? An answer received that you disclose all such charges separately as separate line item. आप अलग से line item दिखाइए. Because whatever you are disclosing in other charges, उस पे GST workout नहीं होता है. So don't disclose in other charges, but disclose this as separate line items. Now you might have observed many of your client, they have got traditional habit of disclosing discount. 100 रुपया value, 25% discount, 75 is the net value. We also call this discount as trade discount. How to disclose such trade discount in invoicing environment? FAQ says all such discount should be disclosed in item discount amount. ये प्लेस होल्डर में आप अगर लिखोगे तो अपने आप कम हो जाएगा and tax will be applied only on net amount. TCS. In last 2 years, TDS और TCS में बहुत changes हुए हैं. Many sections have been added in TDS and TCS provisions. So in many situations, supplier is supposed to collect TCS from the buyer. Supplier has got two options. Supplier can recover such TCS in invoice itself, or it can also recover by way of debit note. Now, how to disclose such TCS amount? That was the question posed to NIC. And NIC says that for such TCS, there is no separate placeholder in schema. Schema में कोई अलग से बनाया नहीं है. So such TCS amount should be disclosed in other charges invoice level placeholder. यहाँ आपको डिस्क्लोज करना है और इस पे जीएसटी वर्कआउट नहीं होगा बिकॉज इट डजंट फॉर्म पार्ट ऑफ टैक्सेबल वैल्यू. एंड फ्रेंड, इससे बहुत चैलेंजेस आएंगे. रियल सिचुएशन, आपका क्लाइंट का कुछ पॉलिसी रहेगा और उसको ई इनवॉइसिंग से इंटीग्रेट करना है. एंड अवर सर्विसेज में भी कॉल्ड अपॉन कि भाई ये कैसे डिस्क्लोज करना है बताइए. Builder case. Builder is eligible for abatement. Now, how to disclose such abatement? Should I disclose only net value? नहीं, possible नहीं है because that value will be captured in accounts. So we will have to disclose gross value. And we are also supposed to disclose abatement. And thereafter, net taxable value on which GST will be charged. How to disclose this? NIC says, in pre-tax value, disclose full amount of 1 crore. In taxable value, you just show amount after abatement. On this amount, GST will be worked out. And your abatement amount, you will have to disclose under other charges item level. Total invoice value will be 1 crore 5 lakh rupees. If we don't follow this advisory or this FAQ, friends, data auto populate hoga GSTR1 में, and liability may be wrongly worked out in GSTR1, and GSTR1 auto populate हो जाता है GSTR3 भी में, तो पूरा चक्कर घूमते रहेंगे एरर का. So we will have to follow this FAQ, and we are supposed to disclose like this only. Question number 57 बहुत important है. Many of our friends might be advising hotels. That hotel might be supplying food as well as alcohol. Now alcohol is outside GST and food is within the ambit of GST. Similarly, friends might be having or they might be serving petrol pump dealers. Petrol pump dealers में lubricant है, lubricant is within the GST, but petrol is outside GST. In such situation, how to disclose your food and beverage or lubricants to e-invoicing portal? Because for petrol or for alcohol, whether e-invoicing is required. FAQ says, restrict your invoicing only for those items which are subject to or which are leviable to GST. All your alcohol, petrol, आप separate physical invoice issue करिए. Don't merge this with e-invoicing. Practical way out, NIC ने बताया हुआ है. Friends, till last year, debit note, credit note, section 16(4) linkage था ओरिजिनल इनवॉइस से. एंड पोर्टल पे पूछा भी जाता था कि ये डेबिट नोट क्रेडिट नोट के सामने एप्लीकेबल इनवॉइस नंबर कौन सा है और डेट कौन सा है. Whether all such validation is applicable now in invoicing environment? Answer says no. Since law has been amended, even portal will not ask for all such linkages while raising debit credit note. ये क्वेश्चन 99 बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, प्रैक्टिकल भी है. We know by now that if supplier has raised e-invoice, then from GSTR 2A you can make out it is e-invoice because corresponding IRN will auto-populate in your GSTR 2A. But it is quite possible that for few invoices, IRN might not have been appearing in 2A. And as a recipient or as a CA2 recipient, you may feel that 48(5) will apply and your client will not get ITC. and you may dispute this transaction. You may say मैं इसका ITC, मैं आपको पैसा ही नहीं दूंगा GST का, because मुझे ITC नहीं मिल सकता. To such question, NIC has said that just because आपके केस में IRN appear नहीं हो रहा है in GSTR 2A, that does not mean कि ये इनवॉइस E-invoice नहीं है. If taxpayer is cancelling such invoice or making some changes by way of deleting this entry in GSTR 1, then obviously IRN will not appear in GSTR 2A. Just because IRN appear नहीं हुआ है, recipient should not form a view कि ये E-invoice generate नहीं हुआ. There are various reasons for non-generation of IRN or non-appearance of IRN. In case of doubt, recipient can check authenticity of E-invoice. अगर आपको डाउट है, आप E-invoice की authenticity चेक कर सकते हो. अब सब recipient का पोजीशन बहुत डिफिकल्ट है. 48(5) is casting onerous liability, and because of certain challenges, कई बार IRN appear नहीं होता है. So these are practical issues, but these issues may not be appreciated by your officer, and he may subsequently issue show cause notice, and we may have to handle such situation in future. ये advisory बहुत पहले ही आ चुकी थी. The moment I generate E-invoice, data will be captured by GST portal, and subsequently such data will auto-populate in GSTR 1. Generally, taxpayer should accept this data and file GSTR 1. कुछ करना ही नहीं है if everything is right. But because of technological limitation, कई बार ऐसा होता है कि I may not accept such data. In such situation, it is advisable to reset all this auto-populated data. आप पोर्टल पे जाके GSTR 1 के टैब, वहां एक बटन है reset का, आप उसको reset कर सकते हैं. And whatever data you have in your accounting software, that you can upload on the portal. Even you can delete selected records. You need not reset entire records. अगर आपको एक या दो इनवॉइस कैंसिल करनी है बिकॉज वो ट्रांजैक्शन मटेरियलाइज नहीं हुआ है, आप सिलेक्टेड रिकॉर्ड्स भी R1 से डिलीट कर सकते हो. फॉर दिस even utility is available at GST portal. Many softwares also have utility for all such selective deletion. ये क्वेश्चन बहुत कॉमन है. Can we search IRN details from portal? Answer yes. Maximum 24 to 48 hours, उसके बाद IRP पे कोई डिटेल्स रहता ही नहीं है. अगर आपने प्रॉपर सर्च, प्रॉपर स्टोर नहीं किया है, तो आज के दिन में IRN आपको सपोर्ट नहीं कर सकता. अगर GSTR 1 में डिटेल्स है तो आप ढूंढ सकते हो, बट IRP आपको कुछ नहीं देगा. IRN जो भी है IRP पे मैक्सिमम 48 आवर्स रहता है, उसके बाद आपको कुछ नहीं मिल सकता. You know, in physical invoice, you are supposed to issue duplicate or triplicate invoice. Duplicate for transport or triplicate for recipient, ऐसा जो है original for recipient. तो ये सब कोई रूल इसमें applicable होगा E-invoicing में. And rule 48(6) is very clear that in case of E-invoicing, ये duplicate triplicate का चक्कर नहीं है. Whatever invoice you are issuing, that is a valid invoice. Though we have touch base this, again we will discuss. Am I supposed to maintain any flow for generation or cancellation of e-way bill vis-a-vis E-invoice? Answer is yes. E-way bill जो है उसको generate करने के लिए आपको क्या चाहिए? E-invoice. So first of all, you will have to generate E-invoice, and thereafter you should generate e-way bill. Of course, जहां मूवमेंट ही है वहां तो डिलीवरी चलान से कर सकते हो, बट जहां सप्लाई है वहां first you will have to generate e-invoice and then only you can generate e-way bill. For cancellation, you will have to first cancel. यहाँ कुछ disputes है, पहले आपको शायद ई-वे बिल कैंसिल करना पड़ेगा, उसके बाद ही आप ई-इनवॉइस कैंसिल कर पाओगे. अगर आपका ई-वे बिल वैलिड है तो इनवॉइस कैंसिल नहीं कर पाते, उल्टा करना पड़ता है. यहाँ टाइपिंग एरर है. सो फर्स्ट जनरेट ई-इनवॉइस एंड देन जनरेट ई-वे बिल, बट फर्स्ट कैंसिल ई-वे बिल एंड देन कैंसिल ई-इनवॉइस. इफ ड्यूरिंग द मोमेंट आपका ई-वे बिल वेरीफाई हो चुका है, इंटरसेप्ट हो चुका है, in that situation you cannot cancel that e-way bill and therefore you cannot also cancel your e-invoice. As of now there is a restriction, you can't add more than 1000 line items. यानी आपके इनवॉइस में 1000 से ऊपर लाइन आइटम है तो आपको टोटल अलाउ नहीं कर रहा है. Latest FAQ says that if you need to generate invoice which has more than 1000 line items, then you can report such transaction to this email ID and they may enable more line items for you. I have not tried this, but this is what FAQ says. But 1000 line item I guess is a fairly sufficient, but quite possible किसी केस में exception हो भी सकता है. दो चार डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चंस हैंडल कर लेते हैं. Assuming you have got godown within the same state, you have got more than one godown. एक भिवंडी में है, एक कालबा देवी में, प्रिज्यूम कर लीजिए. Goods are moving between these two godowns. Is it supply? Answer is no. ये bill is required? Yes, depending upon distance and value. Whether e-invoicing is required? Answer is no, because e-invoicing applicable नहीं होगा because supply ही नहीं है. Transaction within same GSTN within same state is not a supply, and that's why e-invoicing is not required. Friends, ये थोड़ा तकलीफ वाला है, and we may face this issue in future. Many times it happens by oversight or otherwise, your client is issuing invoice as B2C invoice. And subsequently, you realize that ये B2B invoice issue होना चाहिए था. And your client is under e-invoicing. अब क्या करेंगे? Since it was B2C invoice, it was never issued as e-invoice. And इसको cancel करने का तो सवाल ही नहीं आता. Otherwise also cancellation का time 24 hours ही है. So this invoice was never issued as invoice, and now your client is insisting कि भाई इसको मुझे B2B invoice issue करना है as a invoice, otherwise recipient will not pay me. Practical challenge है. ये जो B2C invoice है, आपको you will have to nullify such invoice by issuing credit note, and for credit note there is a time limit right now till 30th September of next financial year. In future 30th November of next financial year, तब तक ये आप इसको credit note issue कर सकते हो. And then you will have to generate new invoice showing past date transaction. Quite possible officer may apply section 122 in your case, and they may issue penalty notice. ये B2B B2C का challenge e-invoicing में बहुत बड़ा हो जाता है. Last question I have already handled, so I will not have this. क्या compulsory है मुझे क्या I need to go to Tally only or some ERP software to generate e-invoice? Answer is no. All such softwares are equally good, but government has also given you few utilities. GPP दिया है, GPP on है. These are two different utilities given by department. Even department has given facility of bulk IR and generation. और उसके अंदर भी 4 ऑप्शंस दिए हुए, फॉर्मेट दिए हैं, फॉर्मेट EBCD, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन योर रिक्वायरमेंट यू कैन सिलेक्ट दिस फॉर्मेट्स and you can generate e-invoice. Of course duplication होगा because you are generating invoice and then copy pasting data to this format and उसके बाद आप invoice generate करोगे, so थोड़ा सा duplication हो जाएगा, but it is not compulsory कि आपको एक invoicing software होना जरूरी नहीं है, depending upon volume. अगर turnover छोटा है या volume छोटा है तो this bulk IRM generation is equally good. You can check whether your client is subject to e-invoicing or not by following this path. And as I have informed, department is working out eligibility only on the basis of GSTR 3B of past years. और इसमें कुछ error है तो obviously department का result erroneous ही होगा. That recipient is supposed to check authenticity of e-invoice. How can recipient discharge such burden? You got 2 choice. Best choice second option है. There is a mobile application available on the portal. वो application download करो, QR code scan करो, immediately मालूम पड़ जाएगा कि ये invoice valid है कि नहीं है, because the moment you scan that QR code आपको सब डिटेल्स सामने दिख जाएगी. That is a proof that this invoice is a valid invoice. अगर आपके पास JSON फाइल है या QR कोड है तो आप इसे भी वेरीफाई कर सकते हो, but this is not a best option. Scanning code is the easiest option. अगर आपको कोई यूटिलिटी गवर्नमेंट की डाउनलोड करनी है तो ये सब आपके पास यहाँ अवेलेबल है. In fact, if you go to help portion on the portal, बहुत सारे CBT है, वहां से आप बहुत कुछ सीख सकते हो, बहुत अच्छे वीडियोस दिए हुए हैं. This is that video also. You and your client can work out how to generate e-invoice through government utility. बहुत सिंपल है. टैली का हेल्प फाइल तो टैली के पोर्टल पे ही है. Tally is too good for e-invoicing. Other softwares are equally good. अगर आपका क्लाइंट e-invoicing के लिए एलिजिबल है, then they can generate e-invoice on a trial mode basis on this portal. अगर आप एलिजिबल नहीं है तो आप नहीं कर पाओगे unless it is enabled for e-invoice. उस GSTN पे e-invoicing आप जनरेट नहीं कर पाओगे. I am on the last slide of my presentation. I am on dynamic QR code versus e-invoicing. Friends, we have seen B2C invoicing के लिए e-invoicing applicable नहीं है, business to consumer. And you may feel कि सबसे ज्यादा adjustment तो B2C में होता है, तो क्यों वहां e-invoicing applicable नहीं है? तो friends, for that we have something called dynamic QR code. As of now, dynamic QR code is applicable only if annual aggregate turnover exceeds 500 crore. सेम 17-18 से लेके अभी तक कोई भी साल में 500 करोड़ से ऊपर हो गया तो आपका क्लाइंट विल हैव टू इश्यू डायनामिक QR कोड इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ ऑल B2C इनवॉइसेस. फ्रेंड्स, डायनामिक QR कोड अलग है. डायनामिक QR कोड का इंटेंशन क्या है? टू फैसिलिटेट ई पेमेंट. इसका इंटेंशन जैसे आपका पेटीएम है या भारत पे है, उसका मेजर इंटेंशन है टू फैसिलिटेट ई पेमेंट. वैसे ही डायनामिक QR कोड का इंटेंशन है फैसिलिटेट ई पेमेंट. उस कोड पे जब आप स्कैन करते हो तो आपको बैंक डिटेल्स दिखता है. Whereas e-invoicing का intention is different. Intention is to capture details about billing, about transaction. Friends, I will not comment on this. I am putting this poser for you. E-invoicing, whether it will be a game changer or whether it is a game changer. One more question: who is going to benefit most from this? Option could be department और ट्रेड. इसका जवाब आप लोग ही देंगे. दिस इज पोजर फ्रॉम From me, you may presume I don't know answer of this question. Only time will tell whether this is game changer or not, and who is going to benefit most from this. Friends, thank you very much for patience sharing, and I have got many questions now.
Thank you, Jignesh bhai. I request Shreyas to please take the questions one by one.
Shreyas bhai, kem cho?
Good, sir. Good. Good to hear you.
Yeah. Shreyas bhai is my neighbor as such.
Yeah. So, sir, I'll read out the questions and you can just accordingly then reply them. So, the first question is digital signature mandatory for e-invoice?
Sir, e-invoice पे already IRP ने एक digital signature लगा दिया है. अब आपको अगर फिर से साइन करना है, नो प्रॉब्लम. अगर आप नहीं करोगे तो भी चल जाएगा. इट इज बिटवीन सप्लायर एंड रेसिपिएंट, वो उन दोनों के बीच में है. इफ योर रेसिपिएंट सेज कि नहीं भाई इसको आपको फिजिकली साइन करके दो या डिजिटली साइन करके दो, दैट इज बिटवीन यू एंड योर रेसिपिएंट. लॉ इज साइलेंट. ऑल योर ई इनवॉइस इज अदरवाइज डिजिटली साइंड बाय IRP. आपको दिखता भी है, ई साइन लिखा रहता है उसके ऊपर.
Okay. Sure. Next question. Supplier is required to issue e-invoice. I have purchased goods, services from him. However, he has issued manual invoice. Will I be denied ITC setup?
Tarang bhai, I have discussed this question. My understanding, it will be too far-fetched to say कि ITC deny होगा कि नहीं होगा. आज मैं नहीं बोल सकता. Certainly SOCOS notice आएगा. SOCOS notice तो department दे देगा. Then you will have to defend, saying that 48(5) is, is ultra wire section 31 करके आपको defend करना पड़ेगा.
Okay. What is the difference between e-invoice generation date and IRN generation date?
सर, ई इनवॉइस डेट होता है और एक IRN डेट होता है. जब बैकडेट ट्रांजैक्शन में करूंगा तब दोनों फर्क पड़ जाते हैं सर.
Okay. Aggregate turnover for which year to be considered?
Sir, I have answered this question. Any year from financial year 17-18 to 21-22. For financial year 17-18, you will have to count turnover only from 1st July 2017.
Correct. Business dealing in GTA and other taxable services and GTA turnover exceed 20 crores and other taxable income rupees 2 crores. Then for other taxable income required to issue e-invoice or not?
Sir, this is in your case, aggregate turnover is exceeding 20 crores. So client is covered under e-invoicing. There is exemption to GTA. GTA को exemption दिया है. बट अगर GTA ये जो 2 करोड़ की इनवॉइस इश्यू करेगा जिस पे टैक्सेबल है, उसके लिए उसको इनवॉइसिंग करना पड़ेगा.
Okay, moving on. So, whether turnover of SEZ will be counted for aggregate turnover?
Sir, my understanding says yes. For pan India basis turnover आपको काउंट करना पड़ेगा. तो for eligibility purpose आपको काउंट करना पड़ेगा, but SEZ बाहर होगा. SEZ will not be within the ambit of invoicing, but since I will have to count turnover of pan India basis, मुझे SEZ का turnover भी काउंट करना पड़ेगा.
Sure. How to generate e-invoice if I am selling goods online, e-commerce operator, B2B?
Amit bhai, I have also answered this question. You have got two choice. Either you can generate e-invoice or Flipkart or Amazon can also generate e-invoice for you. दोनों में से कोई भी एक करते हैं. Our understanding says Flipkart and Amazon is also generating e-invoicing for you. अगर आप उनको authorize करते हो तो they generate e-invoice.
Okay. In case of branch transfer, is e-invoice applicable?
Sir, yes, only in case of ISD invoice आपको applicable नहीं. Otherwise, branch transfer, cross charge, etc. e-invoicing is applicable.
sometimes duplicate IRN generated through system. How to resolve it and how will it reflect on e-invoice portal?
सर डुप्लीकेट IRN जनरेट नहीं हो सकता है. IRN इज अ यूनिक नंबर. अगर आपका इनवॉइस नंबर अगर आपने एक बार यूज किया है, भले आपने इनवॉइस कैंसिल किया, स्टिल यू कांट जनरेट IRN विद दैट नंबर. आपका वो सेकंड IRN वैलिडिटी नहीं हो रहेगा. आप चेक कर लीजिए, वो IRN वैलिड नहीं रहेगा. डुप्लीकेट IRN इज नॉट पॉसिबल. अदरवाइज एंटायर सिस्टम विल गो फॉर टॉस.
Correct. Sure. In case some party supply goods to party on delivery challan, and after 7 days party can after 7 days party issue invoice mentioning all the delivery challans details after considering return of goods.
So Mr. Sai is asking a question that goods are supplied on delivery challan. So rule 55 of GST rules permits movement of goods on delivery challan. कई बार ऐसा होता है कि I am sending goods on approval basis. Then in that situation, obviously I cannot generate invoice or e-invoice. I will have to generate delivery challan. Subsequently, my goods are approved, say within a period of 6 months, and supply is happening at that moment when either my goods are approved or 6 months time limit has expired. So that is the point when supply is happening, and at that point I am supposed to generate e-invoice. तो रूल 55 रेडी विद 31 नॉर्मल में भी यही सिचुएशन है, e-invoice में भी वही होगा.
Okay. Sir, इसमें I want to add on this question. It is goods are not sent on the approval basis. It's already supply of the goods, but when we are sending the goods, e-way can be generated on the basis of delivery challan, and goods can be transported on the basis of delivery challan. Can we generate e-invoice after the delivery of the goods? Physical invoice and e-invoice. If today I am supplying the goods on the basis of delivery challan, tomorrow I can generate the invoice and physical invoice.
Sir, I will take you through legal position first. This problem will come not only in e-invoicing. This will arise even in physical mode. और सर यहाँ डिस्प्यूट है और यहाँ हो भी सकता है आपका गुड्स रिटर्न भी हो जाए. I am sharing rules in front of you. Rule 55 deals with transportation of goods without issue of invoice. This rule says that in this situation, consignor may issue delivery challan with all these details and move goods without invoicing. And these 4 situations are supply of liquid gas, transportation of goods for job work, transportation of goods for reason other than by way of supply, and 4th notified supply. अभी तक कुछ notify नहीं हुआ. तो ये 3 situation है. And now I'm taking you through rule 55A. जहां they allow accept tax invoice or bill of supply. So friends, बहुत सिंपल है. If you go by rule, जहां सप्लाई हुआ है वहां आप डिलीवरी चलान इश्यू नहीं कर सकते. You are supposed to issue e-invoice. Even that is what section 31 says. If you are saying that it is supply and if you are moving goods on delivery challan, friends, believe me, intercepting officer can detain your goods. Section 31 बहुत clear है कि supply है तो आपको before movements of good you are supposed to generate invoice or e-invoice as the case may be. तो ये risky चीज है सर. ट्रेड कर रही है बट जब इंटरसेप्ट होता है तब गुड्स तब पेनल्टी पे करती है.
Sure.
I hope I have answered this question. You might not be comfortable, but legal, but ये है practically ऐसे ही हो रहा है सर.
Correct, sir.
ये अलाउड नहीं है, ट्रेड कर रहा है.
Correct. Moving on. Interest to be included in aggregate turnover for e-invoice.
सर ये नॉर्मल क्वेश्चन यही है आपका, और मेरा अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि इंटरेस्ट भी इंक्लूड होगा बिकॉज एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर की सप्लाई में वो आ जाता है, एग्जाम सप्लाई में वो आ जाता है। नॉर्मल क्वेश्चन है एंड आई थिंक वी हैव हैंडल दिस इवन इन एट द टाइम ऑफ ऑडिट आल्सो। आपने जीएसटीआर 99C फाइल किया तो भी आपने ये क्वेश्चन हैंडल किया ही रहेगा। जो आपने आंसर लिया है वही आपको यहाँ भी फॉलो करना पड़ेगा।
Yeah, correct. So let's say a transaction recorded in B2C transaction in the month of April 22, but later on we want to amend it in B2B transaction in August 22. Then how to raise the e-invoicing portal, whether it will be accepted for previous period?
Shailesh bhai, I have handled this question. I was expecting this and I have answered this question. So now I think we can ignore this.
Sure. What if advocates not registered under GST providing only legal services and not renting of immovable property? Then whether e-invoice will be mandatory if turnover exceeds 20 crore in case?
Amit bhai, in that situation, if he is providing only exempt service, then he need not register only. And if he is not required to register, he is also not required to generate e-invoice. For generating e-invoice, आपका registration compulsory है. आपके इस केस में applicable ही नहीं होगा.
Moving on, if a client has a branch in other countries and India, which turnover shall be considered for applicability of e-invoice?
Sir, ये question I am not clear on this. If client has branch in other countries and India,
if there is a foreign branch.
नहीं sir, वो add नहीं होगा sir.
Okay.
To my understanding, this law applies only as per section 1. This applies only to India.
Okay.
तो बाहर मेरा क्या turnover है? I don't think that has got relevance. Though your question is correct, it is branch. But to my understanding, still it should not apply.
Sure.
But a very, very good, very tricky question, sir.
Sure. So moving on, from GST portal, we came to know that supplier is liable for e-invoicing, but he is not registered under e-invoicing and not issuing invoice. What will be our course of action in this case?
Sir, पैसा रोक दो, अपने आप कर देगा. Because 48.5 is a issue is a big issue, and if you know that supplier is violating, you have to take appropriate action right now, because believe me, future में आपको so cause notice तो आएगा ही आएगा.
Correct. Just need to check whether e-invoicing is necessary for export of service. Also, we do a lot of work for government tourism department that cover also because they come under B2C category.
Okay. So, sir, for export, whether it is goods or service, e-invoicing, if applicable, आपको करना पड़ेगा. There is no exemption for export of service. Export per se is covered. Now you are saying you are dealing with B2C. If that department is not registered and therefore it is under B2C, तो B2C के लिए invoicing नहीं है. But अगर वो department registered है, तो that will come under B2G. B2G के लिए invoicing compulsory है.
Correct. In case of export of service where no GST is levied, can we issue invoice in INR?
Sir, ये question invoicing का नहीं है, but yes, there is no prohibition, sir. In fact, if you go by DGFT तो आपको INR में ही बोलता है करने के लिए, यानी allow करता है. So invoicing, आपका invoice, forget invoice. Your invoice can be in Indian rupee, it can be in foreign. इससे GST को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. We have applicable rule where we can convert INR amount, foreign amount into INR. उससे भी मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. So you can issue in INR, no problem.
Okay. What is the applicability of e-invoicing in case of proprietor having two different businesses with turnover crossing 20 crore in one GST, whereas in other GST and two turnover is either just started or less than 20 crore?
Sir, very simple, because we have to see aggregate turnover on pan-India basis. आपको पैन नंबर पे चेक करना पड़ेगा, तो पैन नंबर पे आपका टर्न, आप दोनों में कवर हो जाओगे सर। पैन इंडिया बेसिस मींस आपका जितना भी है सब मुझे क्लब करना पड़ेगा।
Okay, so I think the next question has 3 sub questions. So, is it necessary to prepare e-invoice at the time of preparing the physical invoice, or it can be delayed till the time of delivery so as to take care of UAB?
सर I'm bit confused प्रतीक भाई, if अगर ई इनवॉइस है तो फिजिकल इनवॉइस क्यों बनेगा पहली बात तो, ठीक है। सो दैट इज आई एम नॉट वेरी क्लियर, आइदर इट विल बी इनवॉइस और फिजिकल इनवॉइस, दोनों नहीं करने मुझे। ऑफ कोर्स वो इनवॉइस का मैं बाद में प्रिंट आउट भेज दूंगा क्लाइंट को, दैट इज डिफरेंट स्टोरी, बट आई विल नॉट जनरेट फिजिकल इनवॉइस। बाय फिजिकल इनवॉइस आई मींस इनवॉइस विदाउट क्यूआर कोड। तो अगर आप क्यूआर कोड के अंदर हो तो आपको फिजिकल इनवॉइस का आप चाहो कर सकते हो, बट दैट इज बिटवीन यू एंड योर सप्लायर, यू एंड योर रिसिपिएंट। गवर्नमेंट को उससे कोई लेना देना नहीं है, इट इज एडिशनल डॉक्यूमेंट। और आप बोल रहे हो कि आप ईवे बिल बाद में बनाना, ईवे बिल बाद में बनाना पॉसिबल है सर। आप इनवॉइस अभी कर लो, बाद में भी आप उसी डिटेल्स पे आप ईवे बिल बना सकते हो। देयर इज अ गुड इंटीग्रेशन बिटवीन बोथ दी पोर्टल, सो आपको कोई फिर से डिटेल्स फीड करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है। बेस्ड ऑन आईआरएन आपका ईवे बिल बन जाता है, सो सेपरेशन का जरूरत नहीं है। बट यस, ईवे बिल इज रिक्वायर्ड एट अ टाइम बिफोर मूवमेंट ऑफ गुड्स। ईवे बिल आप आज ही बना सकते हो, ई इनवॉइस आप आज बना सकते हो, गुड्स यू कैन मूव टुमारो एंड यू कैन जनरेट ईवे बिल टुमारो। मेनी टाइम्स इट इज हैपनिंग दैट ईवे बिल पार्ट ए ही बनता है, पार्ट बी बनता ही नहीं है, बिकॉज ट्रांसपोर्ट पे डिटेल्स एंड मोमेंट पे मिलता है। सो दैट इशू, प्रैक्टिकल इशू वो है, बट इंटीग्रेशन के कारण आपका काम आसान हो जाता है। कैन इनवॉइसिंग डन इन नॉन सीक्वेंशियल मैनर, सर वो अलाउड नहीं है। Can you sorry Shreyas bhai, I think you
No problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the next question was, say, can invoicing be done in non-sequential manner, which you
sir
said.
rule doesn't allow आपको sequential ही आपको नंबर बना इनवॉइस, आपको इनवॉइस इश्यू करने हैं, एंड सेम रूल अप्लाइज इवन टू इनवॉइसिंग। यू मे हैव 2 डिफरेंट सीरीज, दैट्स अ डिफरेंट इश्यू, बट आप एक नंबर आज इश्यू करोगे, फिर 5 करोगे, फिर 4 करोगे, तो यू आर वायलेटिंग सेक्शन 31 एंड रूल्स।
So I think the next part of the question is about the series. Can different multiple invoice series be used in the invoices by the taxpayer as it is allowed while not being eligible to generate e-invoice?
सर जो इनवॉइसिंग के लिए कोई सेपरेट रूल नहीं है इसके लिए, whatever rule applies to invoicing also applies to invoicing.
Sure. Moving on, just what is the compliance required for B2C client?
So B2C client, as I have discussed, if aggregate turnover exceeds 500 crore, तो आपको डायनामिक क्यूआर कोड एप्लीकेबल है, अदरवाइज कोई रिक्वायरमेंट आज के दिन में नहीं है।
What will be your advice if should GST or one of RP who have issued e-invoice should file online by keeping the B2B structure as it is, or to download the data from R1 in Excel, copy those data into Excel template provided by GSTN? In this case, IRN file is not provided in R1 Excel file.
Sir, I will tell you practically क्या होता है। Practically because of certain technical issues, nobody accepts invoicing. अपने अकाउंटिंग पोर्टल पे जो अपने अकाउंटिंग डेटा है वही वो माइग्रेट करता है, रीसेट कर देता है। That is much better because checking all these invoices many times is difficult. तो प्रैक्टिकली इवन जीएसटी एडवाइजरी भी बोल रही है कि आप रीसेट कर सकते हो, तो लोग प्रैक्टिकली रीसेट ही करते हैं।
What is the time limit for generation of IRN from invoice data?
सर टाइम लिमिट ही नहीं है, कोई टाइम लिमिट ही नहीं, एज इन आप बैकडेट करना चाहो कर सकते हो, बट अदरवाइज आपने जब इनवॉइस इश्यू किया है इमीडिएटली आपको आयरन लेना है, उसके बिना आपका इनवॉइस इज अ पीस ऑफ पेपर। सो इन अ नॉर्मल सिचुएशन आपका इनवॉइस बनेगा ही नहीं सर, देयर इज नो टाइम गैप अवेलेबल, बट इन ड्यू सिचुएशन यू कैन जनरेट बैकडेटेड ट्रांजैक्शंस, जो कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस आएंगे वो झेलने पड़ेंगे।
In case of bulk e-invoice generation, the time limit for issuance of e-invoice gets breached. So why such facility?
No, sir. Sir, I beg to differ. Bulk e-invoice generation means instead of generating one invoice, I will capture all details together. टैली में सब एंट्री साथ में मार दूंगा और फिर मैं सब ट्रांजेक्शन को सिलेक्ट करके साथ में मैं इनवॉइस बना दूंगा, सो दैट आई डोंट हैव टू डू ट्रांजेक्शन में, आई डोंट हैव टू डू ऑल दिस थिंग्स मेनी टाइम्स. एक ही साथ में मेरा काम हो जाता है. बट थंब रूल इज वेरी क्लियर. बिफोर मूविंग गुड्स यू आर सपोज टू जनरेट ई इनवॉइस.
Correct. Can the ITC be disallowed if the supplier of goods or services defaults or does not pay the GST?
Monish bhai, I have answered. To my understanding, no, but so cause notice आएगा.
Sir, how to deal with B2C transaction where the recipient GSTIN was cancelled at the time of issue of physical invoices? Later on, he gets his number restored and later on he asks to issue B2B invoice. But due to e-way bill, not able to issue such invoice.
सर आपका नंबर कैंसल्ड है तो आपको अगर आपका नंबर कैंसल्ड है रिसिपिएंट का तो उसका ई इनवॉइस जनरेट नहीं हो सकता है. अगर लाइव हुआ तभी कर पाएंगे. अदरवाइज आईआरपी अगर आपका जीएसटीएन कैंसल्ड है, वैलिड नहीं है, तो रिसिपिएंट का अगर कोई भी इश्यू रहेगा जीएसटीएन में, ई इनवॉइस ऑथेंटिकेट नहीं होता है. ऑल ये कॉमन प्रॉब्लम है. बाद में रिस्टोर हुआ, this you will have to issue backdated invoice. That's the only thing.
But can they claim the credit for that period, the recipient?
सर अगर स्टेटस रिस्टोर हुआ है subject to 16.4, he can claim credit. 16.4 will be a stumbling block, but otherwise transaction हुआ है. If you can prove, if you are fulfilling all conditions of 16.2 and 16.4 अगर आपको प्रॉब्लम नहीं करता है तो टू माय अंडरस्टैंडिंग को प्रॉब्लम नहीं आना चाहिए.
Okay. So Jasmeet Bhai has really appreciated the presentation, sir.
Thank you, Gandhi sir.
If the turnover 25 crore, out of which 23 crore is out of IC sales and 2 crore in local sales, is that situation e-invoice applicable?
सर अगर एक पैसा भी होगा तो भी आप एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में आ जाओगे सर.
Correct.
प्रॉब्लम ऑफ डेफिनेशन का जो प्रॉब्लम है वो है सर.
Correct. Turnover definition for invoicing, including tax or excluding tax?
Panisha, I have answered. It is excluding tax.
Yeah. Applicable to services as stated in the presentation.
Yes, sir. सर्विसिंग सर्विसेज के लिए भी चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट अगर 20 करोड़ से ऊपर टर्नओवर होगा, एंड आई विश सब चार्टर्ड अकाउंट का 20 करोड़ से ऊपर टर्नओवर हो, एंड लेट वी ऑल इश्यू इनवॉइस.
जीएसटी लॉ ऐसे अपडेट्स लाता रहेगा तो हो जाएगा. Okay, moving on. I think this was connected specifically work contract service.
सर कोई एग्जेम्पशन वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को नहीं है सर.
In case of export invoice is issued in a foreign currency, how will it will be converted into INR for GSTR1? Is it necessary to mention value in invoice?
Sir, you refer to Rule 34. Rule 34 में GST में उन्होंने फॉरेन करेंसी को INR में कैसे कन्वर्ट करना है पूरे से अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन किया है. दिस रूल इज एप्लीकेबल फॉर गुड्स एज वेल एज सर्विस. दोनों के लिए उन्होंने अलग से पॉसिबिलिटी समझाई हुई है. सो यू रिफर दैट रूल.
Sale of securities in equity and futures and options is also to be considered for aggregate annual turnover.
Sir, to my understanding, no. To my understanding, if you see Rule 45, at the end of 45, it is said that only for the purpose of reversal, आपको 1% cover करना है. So, I will take a view that I will not, that it is not included for the purpose of turnover.
Okay. Whether invoice is the e-invoice is applicable to service provider also.
I have answered this applicable.
Yeah, I think same Yatin bhai is also asking the
same question repeat हुआ है sir.
If my client is selling goods through e-commerce platform, do I need to raise e-invoice or it would be generated by e-commerce operator?
If it is B2C, if it is B2C supply, sir, B2C supply is outside invoicing. आप ऑनलाइन करो या ऑफलाइन करो, B2C को एग्जाम्प्ट है आज के दिन में.
Service getting over on 31st March night. Can we generate e-invoice dated 31st March or 1st April?
सर्विस गेटिंग ओवर ऑन 31st March नाइट. सर 31st March नाइट को अगर आप कर रहे हो, एज पर GST लॉ यू हैव गॉट 30 days फ्रॉम 31st नाइट.
Yeah.
बराबर है. अब आप अकाउंटिंग हिसाब से 31st March को इनवॉइस इश्यू कर देते हो, तो देन यू आर आउट ऑफ इनवॉइसिंग.
Okay. Client has GST registration in Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. Whether total turnover of all to be added for every
Yes,
year.
sir. Pan India turnover.
Is it mandatory to reset invoicing series to 1 2022-3, or we can continue our existing invoice number series from previous year?
सर आइडियली आपको अलग कर लेना चाहिए, बट एज लॉन्ग एज सीरीज इज यूनिक, कोई कुछ पूछ नहीं सकता है, बट आइडियली कर देना चाहिए.
Should the series of invoices for B2B and B2C be different?
साहब लॉ इज साइलेंट, इट इज योर चॉइस.
Suppose I generated wrong invoice and time to cancel the invoice is lapsed. Is it better to issue a credit note or make changes in GSTR1?
विनीत साहब, पहले तो क्रेडिट नोट इश्यू करने के लिए आपके रेस्ट्रिक्शन है वो आप देख लीजिए. क्रेडिट नोट इश्यू करने के बाद सामने वाला एक्सेप्ट करने वाला है क्या, वो भी एक इश्यू होता है कई बार. सो डिपेंडिंग अपॉन फैक्ट्स you will have to take a call whether you want to make changes in GSTR1 or you want to issue credit note. आपको बात करके करना पड़ेगा. प्लेन वैनिला आंसर शायद पॉसिबल नहीं होगा इस सिचुएशन में.
So physical invoice details are correct, e-invoice details are incorrect, e-way bill details are correct. How to deal with this?
खिमावत साहब, फिजिकल इनवॉइस जो आपने दिया है वो तो पीस ऑफ पेपर है. अगर ई इनवॉइस एप्लीकेबल है तो आपका ई इनवॉइस रिवेबल्स में मिसमैच है. वेरी गुड चांस यू विल गेट ASMT 10 नोटिस इन फ्यूचर एंड यू मे हैव टू एक्सप्लेन दिस. अगर कुछ इश्यू है, प्लीज एक्सप्लोर पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ इश्यूइंग डेबिट क्रेडिट नोट and reconcile this issue right now. Debit credit note is a better option. Or you can amend your invoice in GSTR1 also before you file GSTR1, so that both will match.
In case of work contract service, within how many days e-invoice has to be uploaded?
Sir, works contract service, as we have said, it is service, and for service we have got 30 days time limit from rendering of service.
Last question. Client prepared invoice like 01/04/2021 May, will it be counted as unique?
So sir, you are saying month wise you are having different numbers, correct?
Yeah.
And this may not see, आपको ये शायद यूनिक नहीं माना जाएगा, बिकॉज आपको साल के लिए अलग अलग करना, आपको सीरीज रखनी पड़ती है, तो शायद ये चैलेंज है. आई एम अवेयर मेनी पीपल आर डूइंग दिस फॉर सम रीजन, बट if you go by spirit of law, this may not be treated as proper thing.
Okay.
Normally, sir, somebody keeps A 1 to 10, then next month M 1 to 10. That series normally many are maintaining.
Sir, again, as I said,
Reasons are known, sir. Reasons, everyone knows the reason.
as I said, yeah, I know, and that's what I'm saying. In the spirit of law, it is not correct. I know I'm speaking on e-platform, so I will not comment on reason. But to my understanding, this can be challenged.
Sure.
Jignesh, one minor question from my side.
बोलो madam.
There was one question raised saying that turnover 25 CR, out of which 23 is out-to-out sale and 2 CR is local. So in that case, e-invoice won't be applicable, right?
Sir, madam, to my understanding, let me again go through definition of
Aggregate turnover.
aggregate turnover.
Yeah.
Let me open Barrett only. So I will have to again go by Barrett.
Shall I read the definition for you?
Yeah, please, madam.
Yeah. So it mentions aggregate turnover means the aggregate value of all taxable supplies, excluding value of inward liable to RCM. So it's all taxable supplies, exempt supply, export of goods or services or both, and interstate supply of a person having same PAN number to be computed on all India basis and excluding GST taxes.
Madam, now I want you to go through turnover definition of exempt supply also.
Just a second.
That is another big challenge.
Yeah, so exempt supply means supply of any goods or services or both which attracts nil rate of tax or which may be wholly exempt from tax under section 11 or under section 6 of IGST Act and includes non-taxable supply.
So that's a big issue, madam.
And
Definition-
non-taxable means the territory which is outside taxable territory. Sorry. Non-taxable means which is not leviable to tax under this act.
So,
So
and
can
now
you say
non-taxable supply, I think also has been defined.
So it is defined as a supply of goods or services or both which is not leviable to tax under this act. So you meant to say Schedule 3, all items will be covered by non-taxable?
Yeah, so if we do conjoint trading of all these things, so then we emerge that all these things will be covered because non-taxable supply has been defined in a very wide manner.
No, because while calculating turnover for GSTR 9, the no supply item usually we don't consider. The Schedule 3 item we don't consider as part of our turnover. It is just for disclosure purpose for GSTR 9 as per the requirement of the form.
Vijay, madam, what I was trying to emphasize is that, wording of this non-taxable, this definition, and when it says which is not leviable also is also non-taxable supply, which will become part of exempt supply, and then it will become part of aggregate turnover.
No, because if I consider that way, then even my GSTR 9, what aggregate turnover will calculate for applicability of GSTR 9, that 5 CR and all. So even that will be affected if we read definition.
That's what I'm saying. My answer was that even there is a 1 rupee ka taxable, then all this creates issue.
Yeah.
Because
whatever stand I have taken for GSTR 9, the same stand I should take even
with this
for
stand,
E-Invoicing.
but there is a possibility that officer may. But this is poor drafting, but you will have to go by wording of the act.
Okay, so there is no clarification in this regard till date.
No, there is no clarification.
Jignesh, in continuation to Vijay's query, for example, we have a mercantile trade where we sell from, say, Japan and we sold it to Malaysia directly out and out.
Out and out.
It is stated law that it is called a non-GST supply.
Correct.
But if my non-GST supply is 20 crores and normal sale is 1 crore, whether I fall in E-Invoicing?
That was the question.
That is, see, that's what I'm saying. That's what I see. The thing is, the way in which non-taxable supply has been defined, it is possible to take a view that your out and out supply or drop shipment supply is considered non-taxable supply, which is nothing but exempt supply, and exempt supply is part of aggregate turnover.
But exempt supply, basically this is not, as per the definition, this is not supply only. It is a non-GST supply. It is not on the purview of GST.
Yeah, it is part of Schedule 3, which is not a supply at all.
Sir, I agree. I see what you say is logically correct. And I also agree that this is logically correct. I was just expressing a view that this section 278 can create problem in the future. These are one of the litigative item in GST law as of now, and there is no clarification on this. So if you possible, sir.
I think the wording which is used here is means a supply of goods or services, while my Schedule 3 items are not supply of goods or services at all. Can we read that way?
I agree with your view.
Maybe it is litigation. It may lead to
what I'm saying, this position is not, it is not open and shut case. Yahan different view is possible. And that's the beauty of GST law. Yahan bahut jagah aisa hai ki, there are more than 2 views possible. And you know which view officer will take.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jignesh.
Sir, only last question. Where you said that series should be in a proper line. But for example, in mobile business, where you have a workshop, you go for repairing of the mobiles. If some part is being replaced in warranty period, that part is being already getting billed by the company itself from your name to his name. Correct. In that case, they only give the series of that invoice number, but it is totally different series number. And it is not in proper order. So again, we have to give the series.
Have different series. There is no problem in having different series. अगर वो series sequence में है तो ठीक है. But what I understand from the query that taxpayer is keeping month-wise series.
Not that way, sir. When I put that warranty period ka replacement from to the company, they give some machine number 13978. Again, after 5 minutes, if I again go for some repair bill, they will give some another series. So each bill have some different series. So again, I have to give my own series with this.
So, sir, let's take a case of McDonald's.
Hmm.
They might be having say 25 outlets in Mumbai, if I'm not wrong. Correct. And for every outlet, different outlet, they have different series. Correct. वो series के अंदर लोग maintain करते हैं. There is no prohibition because they will have different series for different location. उसका कोई problem नहीं है. But and if you can't maintain sequence, then department will say it is violation of rules. And department का intention क्या है? Because if you can't maintain sequence, it means you can issue invoice in between or you must keep invoice.
यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, सैमसंग अगर 50 डीलर का रिपेयरिंग कर रहा है, तो वो पहला रिपेयरिंग मेरा आया तो मेरे को एक नंबर दे दिया, फिर दूसरा रिपेयरिंग किसी और शॉप का आया तो सेकंड नंबर उसको दे देते हैं.
Correct, but and who is issuing invoice? Samsung is issuing invoice on our behalf.
It is actually it is my issue, it is my sale to them, but they are only generating the invoice.
Okay.
With their number, because after that should I give my number also to that bill?
No, but means they are generating invoice on your behalf.
Yeah.
You mean to say?
Correct.
Sir, एक बार discuss करेंगे इसको. This is new to me also. This is new learning for me.
It's a system generated invoice.
Can we discuss this offline because?
Yeah, definitely.
This is new to me also, sir. But a good question, real world में जो हो रहा है उसको law के साथ integrate करना is the biggest challenge.
Correct. Thank you, sir.
Sure. I think we have two more questions.
It's same question only.
Okay. So same question is repeated. Okay. So only last question. By mistake in GSTR1, one line item is deleted. If we insert the same line item, there would be no IRN, or will there be?
So you are saying that one transaction or one line item, when एक transaction आपने delete कर दिया, if we insert same line item, there would not be IRN any? Jignesh bhai, I am not very clear on your query. Either you will have to explain me, or I am clueless. शायद मैं समझ नहीं पाया हूँ query को.
We will dismiss this question for now then. Sure, I think so. We are done. So, Vishal bhai, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Suresh, and thank you, Jignesh.
I'll put some comment there. I think if sir wants to read it.
Thank you, Shreyas, and thank you, Jignesh bhai. Before I request Sikandar to give hearty vote of thanks, one small reminder again. Today is the last date for the renewal of discounted registration fees. To members who are not yet renewed themselves, request them to please renew and take the benefit of the discounted rate. Members, I would like to thank Jignesh bhai that Jignesh bhai has explained the e-invoice in very detailed manner with the help of PPT and FAQs in very detail, which cleared our almost all the doubts regarding the e-invoices. Thank you, Jignesh bhai, for sharing your time. I request Sikandar to please give hearty vote of thanks to this.
Thank you, Vishal bhai. It is a great privilege and honor to propose well-deserved vote of thanks to CA Jignesh bhai. He has covered the topic in detail, like process flow, e-invoicing provision, who is in, period to check, who is out, registration of e-invoicing, time limit of issue of e-invoice, and FAQs, etc. And he has also answered the question asked by the members. As it is the first meeting of BCSC for financial year 22-23, being the opener of financial year 22-23, Jignesh bhai played the superb knock and set the strong foundation. Thank you, Jignesh bhai, for excellent session. Now I request all the members for virtual applause.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Study Circle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members.
Should I assign you, Nilesh bhai? Because if I quit, session will end.
Nilesh, you are host now. Mute, mute, chair, mute.